Scott Galloway is a professor at the New York University Stern School of Business, where he teaches brand strategy. First of all, Lucky Spliffs, what do you think? Is that possible for a brand of marijuana?
I think you're onto something.
All right, now, look, it's one thing to legalize pot. It's another thing to let companies advertise it. Yeah. And so that brings up an interesting question. Should we let them do ads?
Wow, that's a complicated question. But if you look at what happened with the pharmaceutical business around 10 years ago when they brought some clarity to whether they could advertise and broadcast, and they started advertising and broadcast, it effectively saved the evening news. I mean, if you look at your evening news programs right now, it's basically kind of a lesson in what happens as you get older. It's sort of brought to you by the pharmaceutical industry. The last 10 years, we've probably seen a 7-fold increase in direct-to-consumer marketing dollars from the pharma industry. So if you think this is a big business and you think that the message is getting out there regardless, then why not put it through the proper channels?
So you're saying the answer for primetime news is let's let pot advertise?
Well, you can advertise right now brands whose primary active ingredient is heroin.
That's cool. Which one is that?
OxyContin.
Oh, is that right?
Or Ambien, or a sleeping aid, or what have you. So these are
if I was a conservative talk show host, I would have known the answer to that. But okay, yes.
Yeah, we won't go there. So I think it's a difficult argument, especially when you look at least some of the proven medical indications that seem to have some people get some relief from pot.
I guess that could also change, like Miller's High Life ads. Living the high life could take on a whole different meaning. But do you think pot needs advertising? I mean, you're in brand marketing here. I mean, does pot have a pretty good brand already, or is it a bad brand? I know it's illegal, but does that make it better or worse right now?
Does pot have a good brand? I think among a core constituency, it's definitely an aspirational brand with a lot of goodwill around it. But I think what you're dealing with here is once you go through the traditional broadcast channels, for better or worse, it does create a halo of credibility around a product category. And the ad that you guys mocked up would be considered sort of a brand preference ad where you're trying to sell one brand of marijuana over the other. Whereas the ad that the folks from Canacare, I think it was, ran, was more or less going at the larger issue about whether or not cannabis is an effective remedy for any sort of indication.
And brands love to have synergies, so that's why kids' movies, for example, partner up with McDonald's and a Happy Meal, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think pot could partner up with here?
Well, the options are endless. Obviously, a couple things are going to happen. I mean, joking aside, if they seriously want to create a viable channel around direct-to-consumer advertising, they've got to do what they're doing right now, and that is communicate to people and say that this is a consumer product and that has medicinal benefit. So, but yeah, obviously the product placement here opportunities are pretty broad.
All right. So finally, give me I don't want a yes or no, but close. Should we legalize it? I know that's outside of your realm, but I want an answer anyway. And should we advertise it?
The first question's above my pay grade, but
oh, come on, give it to me.
This is a bigger issue. Let me put it this way: I don't think my sense is right now there are a lot of people smoking pot regardless of whether it's illegal or legal, for the right reasons and for the wrong reasons.
I'm sure that's not happening at NYU though, but
not at our university. Everywhere else. And should they be allowed to advertise it? If it's legal, absolutely. Put it under the right regulatory bodies and make sure it's done well.
All right, Scott. Thanks so much for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.